Hey everybody, I'm here with Leon J, and he's the founder of FusionHQ, founder of Senfish, the author of 21 business and marketing lessons from a prostitute, and also How to Do Less Work and Make More Money, which is the business book in 2012. He's also the founder of this coffee shop that we're sitting outside of right now. So thanks for joining me today.
Oh, welcome, Grant.
And so I've had a lot of conversations with Leon in the past couple days, past couple weeks, and he has a lot of really interesting stories and advice to offer to new and even established entrepreneurs. And so that's why I wanted to get him today on camera and do some interviews, have some questions about him, about his backstory, about his things that he wants to share with other people. And first off, it'd be a good place to start is how he got started, because he actually has an unusual background and has a really interesting story about his first successful launch into entrepreneurship that I'd love to hear about.
Cool. Well, so basically I got started really by accident. You know, I was originally a naturopath, and you know, like many naturopaths trying to get a business started, we weren't really taught much about the business world, and I did a lot of physical therapies and those type of things. So during this process, I actually built a website that covered one of the techniques that I was practicing at that time, and was very, very passionate about it, and basically put up a lot of really valuable content that just wasn't available elsewhere. And essentially I did all of the things right accidentally to do SEO essentially, and I got a lot of traffic and started making money accidentally through a couple of affiliate links, which I kind of understood the theory, but I hadn't really planned to be an affiliate. And so one day I wake up and I realize I've got more money in my bank from sleeping than I had through seeing clients. And you know, that was a revelation to me. So I realized that, well, if I could do this once, then I must be able to repeat it, and there must be a better way. And as I like to travel around, you know, really seeing clients was not a particularly good business model for me. And I'd move to one place and then have to set up a new practice. So I realized that the internet provided me with masses of opportunity and potential for generating revenue, while still being passionate about the natural therapies world and providing a lot of value and helping a lot of people. So that was kind of what got me started, and you know, the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, and you've come quite a long ways from what you used to do and what you do now. Like FusionHQ is a big company that's totally different topic than that original one. So
yes.
What caused your shift, or your what was your path from where you started to? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm a little bit of an extremist. I tend to just kind of go all out if I'm going to do something. And so when I realized that there was money to be made on the internet, I went all out and studied everything I could find. I went to all of the seminars, I flew around the world, and I didn't have any money at this point. I mean, it has to be said, it was all put in on credit cards, and if I could try and make a little bit of money, then I would squeeze it out and invest it back into buying more training or more education. Right. And so during this path, I ended up meeting a lady by the name of Sandy Forster from Australia, who was running a 7-figure-a-year personal development business, and I became her affiliate manager for a while and helped her with a lot of the tech stuff. And that was a learning curve for me, because I mean, Sandy's a lovely lady, but she's as ADD as they come, you know, and she knows very, very little when it comes to that. She can hardly spell HTML, you know, and so there's me thinking I'm way more intelligent than she is. Sorry, Sandy, but you know, I'm just sitting, but she's making all the money, so maybe I'm not so intelligent after all, you know. So that was an interesting learning curve for me, and recognizing that team was really, really important at this point, and understanding the importance of having a team and how she was able to achieve so much more than me, because I was her team and she wasn't mine. Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting observation. Anyway, I kind of built my own business at this point. I ended up working for Mark Joyner as director of marketing. And that was an interesting curve. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Mark Joyner was the guy credited for inventing, or first selling the ebook, and anyway, I decided I want to start building my own business. So after deciding to leave there, I moved to Thailand and met an interesting character who persuaded me to come on board as his consultant and partner on a project. And that one we did about $1.4 million in around 10 days during the launch period.
Wow.
So yeah,
Not bad.
I'd had some moderate successes before that, but
Yes.
that was a very, very big tipping point for me in terms of my realizations. And obviously, you hear about these kind of launches, but to kind of wake up and see $300,000 has just gone in the bank account over the last few hours is quite a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem was that at the end of this, we found that the refund rate wasn't particularly high, but we had refunds, and the way that we'd structured our business meant that it was very inefficient to process those refunds. We had a lot of tech problems getting the whole thing set up in the first place, trying to set up the different funnels and integrating the membership sites and the affiliate tracking and the mailing lists, etc., etc. And so during this launch period, it was a lot of learning for me, plus of course my experience working on the other big projects in the past. Both of the companies, both being 7-figure a year companies. So what I realized there had to be an easier way. So I started developing and building FusionHQ, more for myself than anything. I realized that there must be a nice, easy way to create a drag and drop interface to simply be able to design the layouts, pretty much as I was doing in Visio. Used to use Microsoft Visio to do the sales processes and then hand it to a programmer. Well, I figured, why hand it to a programmer? Why not simply get the software to basically build what I'd designed on the screen? And so
Easier said than done, I think. Getting the software to do it.
It's very easy to say, that's for sure. And thankfully, I teamed up with a really, really good programmer, and he was able to make it happen, much more beyond any skill I have. So that was the birth of FusionHQ, and that was now 5.5 or so years ago, I guess. And we've been slowly progressing over those years, developing out the software, working with a bunch of different marketers from around the world with different business models, finding out what works and adjusting the software to include the right features and functionality and improve the usability to try and help more and more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you guys have not checked it out before, go to fusionhq.com. It's good stuff. But just to put the explicit URL right there. So there's a couple interesting lessons I think that can come out of your story that you just told, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts of that. For example, it sounds like one of the really productive things for you when you first got started was to work with like a large established company on specific projects. And you were higher up in that company as a director of marketing and things like that. But
yes.
So how would you compare that experience to maybe a lot of other people who go the solopreneur route, and
right.
What do you think is better? Are they both have their merits?
Yes, a very, very important question, and it's one that I learned the hard way, because prior to that, when I say I was been going out researching and learning, I didn't just fall into those companies. That took me a few years. I was online for a good 4, maybe 5 years before that, and during that process, I was obviously trying to build my own projects. I had some moderate successes in terms of making a few $100s here and a few $1,000s there.
Yeah.
But really barely enough to survive. And so the big revelation for me, and I've heard it said many times, team, together everybody achieves more. And it's one of those things that you sort of looks nice on a poster, but I hadn't really, really appreciated the reality of it until I actually started working as a team member, and then everything changed. Really, it was the moment that I started partnering with other people. Since then, one of the things I'm very passionate about is teaching a formula that kind of came out from the concepts of do less work, make more money. It was never published in the book, but it's coming out in my next book, which is hopefully due soon, so keep an eye out for that. But basically T plus T plus T in brackets multiplied by T equals R, and just to simplify that, that's team multiplied by tools multiplied by training, training plus team plus tools in brackets multiplied by time equals results. So essentially, the more team members you have, you can never get more time, right? Or can you? Well, if you hire other people, that means essentially you're buying extra time. It's the only way you can really leverage that time thing. from a very, very real perspective. Not only that, you know, if you go and study a course on copywriting, how long does it take you to spend that time learning and then practicing it sufficiently to get to that point? That's a lot of time. Again, you hire the right team or you team up with the right people inside of your team. That's time that you no longer need to invest. The power and the implication of this was absolutely huge for me. And then of course tools. Tools are levers. Levers is the biggest form of leverage, or the most simple, obvious form of leverage, right? And yet how many people go out there and they invest in cheap amateur tools to try and do a professional job. And so that was another revelation for me, that when I was working in these businesses, they were hiring professionals and they were using professional tools and they were getting professional results. Prior to that, I was trying to use cheap tools or free tools, doing it all on my own, or hiring at best some $2 an hour freelancer off Elance and trying to pretend that I was a professional. I wasn't, and that was the reality I had to face, and the realization that I made. And the moment I changed those decisions and those actions, then the results changed.
So I think I love your point about using professional tools and how that's, you have to use professional tools to be professional, right? But I guess the downside and the realistic objection people might have is that, like, oh, I'm just getting started, I don't have the money to afford professional tools. So what would you say to them?
Yeah, and it is a real problem. And I mean, to some degree, yes, you can compromise at some places, but really only if you absolutely have to. But generally speaking, if you can team up with somebody else who already has the tools that you need, there's already strategy number one. A lot of the tools that are out there, you can get free trials for the initial, but you have to be committed to really making them work. Now, some people, like FusionHQ, for example, our main package is like $200 a month, right? I'm just, using this as a general answer, example, but a lot of people when they first start say, oh, I can't afford that. Yet, can you imagine any offline business that you could run for just $200 a month? Mm-hmm. I mean, it just, like if you're running any form of mobile business, you'll spend more than that in fuel. If you have a shop, you're going to spend way more than that in rent. And yet on the internet, it's possible to run an entire business for just $200 a month, and people will complain. So we have to realize that, in the world of business, and if we think about this as building a real business, and we talk about bootstrapping, something like $200 a month is already bootstrapping in the real world. If you go and ask some guy who's driving around in a high-end Lamborghini or something and say, hey, do you think you could run an entire business for $200 a month? He'd probably laugh at you, right? Yet people are trying to reach these objectives where they're saying, yeah, I want the nice car, I want the nice house, I want this lifestyle, yet they're not prepared to invest even such a small amount. So it's this small-minded thinking that I often find that actually prevents people from really moving forward. And the objections, I've heard all of the objections, but the bottom line is this. What I found is it cost me way more in the long run by using cheap tools. For example, an autoresponder. Have you ever tried transferring autoresponder services? It's an absolute nightmare, right? You have to be able to try and export your list, then find somebody who will willingly import it. You have to reset up all of your autoresponder sequence into the new service. You've got to be able to find some way to basically sync all of your existing customers that are going through that process, or at least let them run through the existing process. Plus, you now have to change over all of the opt-in forms on all of your websites, restructure all of your buy now buttons to now send the data to the... It's a nightmare, right? Just that's one thing, one fraction. If you ever tried changing an SEO website, changing the platform from one SEO website to another SEO platform, all the URLs change, the structures change, the internal linking changes, all of the things that Google have learned to love about you have now changed, or you've got to try and match up again. A nightmare. So you see, it's really, really very, very short-term thinking to try and use amateur tools to do a professional job. If you're genuinely serious about becoming a professional, then start and act like you really mean it. That's all I can say, is just really, draw the line in the sand and say, if you want to play with the children, then stay in the sandpit. If you want to get out and you want to play the adults and you want to be a professional and you want to make real money, then start doing what they're doing. It's so straightforward, yet I have this like head-banging argument with like digital nomad after digital nomad in particular, because they're all trying to bootstrap and they've got all this limited mindset, and yet, you know, I've got plenty of friends that are doing some very, very respectable numbers, and not one of them are playing in that sandpit.
And I think it relates well back to your other T, which was time, right? Because even if you just think about the $200 per month, for example, and then you relate that back to how much time you're saving, and you value your time at like maybe you even want like $1 an hour, then it still ends up being actually, if you equate the two, then you actually end up coming out much ahead.
Yeah, and this is the problem I find, is that, you know, a lot of people are coming out of the business, are coming out of the employee world. And you have to change your level of thinking. You have to change your way of thinking, and the way that you relate to money and the way that you value money. Stop thinking, you know, I could do this job, that will save me $20, right? You've got to get out of that mindset and start thinking, how can I find somebody else to do this better than I'm able to do it? And basically replace yourself as soon as possible. Bootstrapping just basically means, in the real world of you know, success, it basically means reducing your personal costs down to an absolute bare minimum so that you can invest into other people, into better tools, into better systems, and really try and scale and focus and not waste money on expensive corporate offices. Or, you know, driving around in a BMW or a Lexus unnecessarily. You know, that's what's expected in the normal business world. Bootstrapping effectively simply means just only spending what you need to, but no less than. And I think people often get this wrong, where they think bootstrapping means spending nothing and doing it on like fresh air. And
that's true. The meaning's been very diluted.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, again, if you've come from a job where you're used to earning $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, even $70,000 a year, the amount that you're used to dealing with on a daily basis is small numbers. If you try and put that into context of real businesses, you need to realize that bootstrapping doesn't mean you know, spending just a handful of dollars, you know, a month. It's not the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's a lot of good points there. And I think so once people are started with their project, it's a great things to keep in mind for moving forward effectively. But I actually want to take a step back, and I love your framework about your 5 Ps, about how to actually like prioritize and mentally think about your projects and where you want to go long term. So would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, of course. This came out as a little bit of a revelation to me personally, actually, just recently. Because again, being in this environment, I get to meet a lot of digital nomads, you know, those people traveling, trying to make a buck online. And what I realized was that after many a frustrating conversation was that people were asking the wrong questions, or they were asking the right questions, but in the wrong order. And strangely, this makes a very, very big difference. So the typical conversation goes something like this: oh, how can I make money? Like, what's the best way to make money? Like, there's a definitive answer for that is going to be the same for everybody. And there's simply not. The second is, well, where's the best place to be? So now it's like, well, let's head to Chiang Mai because Chiang Mai is a cheap place to live, and there's a bunch of other guys making money online. So hopefully I'll find an answer to the first question if I don't have one already, or I can network with other people who are currently doing Teespring or doing drop shipping or whatever other business model they're following. And then they start looking around and finding some people to network with. And then they start asking the question, what do I actually enjoy doing? And then finally they figure out, well, what's the purpose in all of this? Well, if we actually start from the other end, and we get a very, very different set of answers. If we ask, what's the purpose? Right, this is the first P. What's the purpose? What do I have to bring to this world? What do I want to achieve in this world? What do I want to change? What's really important to me? And you know, how do I think I can make a difference? And if you can identify the answers to those questions, you can now move on to the second question, which is, what am I passionate about? Where are my skills? For me, it's marketing and business systems. So for me, I realized that that's where I needed to focus. Even though I run a software company, and I know basic programming in certain languages, I have no idea how to program FusionHQ. Not a slide. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Yet that's my business, right? So how am I in a software company, software business without knowing a line of code? And and that's because that's not my area of passion. So I know where my passion is in my business. Then the next question, people. And so what people do I need to bring in to make my passion a reality once I know my place through my purpose, my passion. So I've got my passion and my purpose. What other people do I need now to bring to make that purpose a reality?
That preferably save you time and offer you training and offer you
exactly right. They tie in. So and to try and find people that are also passionate about what they are doing and are in alignment with the bigger purpose, right? So now it's all starting to stack up. Well, now we ask the question, where is the best place to do this? The fourth P. Where is the best place to be located? And for us, that happens to be Chiang Mai. That's where my team is. It makes economic sense from a bootstrapping perspective to spend as much as, it's not cheap doing it, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than doing it in, say, downtown New York or center of Auckland or somewhere else, right? So I can cost effectively leverage my business and I can find some great guys to work with here and much more cost effective to work with. So now I've found my people and I've got my place. Finally, we can ask the question, how do we make a profit? Right? There's so many ways to make a profit. You can do advertising, you can sell information, you can lease or have monthly payments or rentals or whatever it may be on different software or physical products. The list of ways of making money is endless, right? There's no shortage of ways. I mean, you look at the big companies out there that really did this well. Let's take, for example, Google. Now, did Google ask the question, how do we make money? I mean, can you imagine this conversation taking place? How do we, there's Larry and Sergey, they're sitting down going, you know what, we need to make some cash. How do we make some cash? We want to make a few $1 billion. Well, we should become the world's largest advertising network. That will work. No, they didn't, right? They sat down and said, we want to bring the internet to the people. We want to be able to help people use the internet in an effective way. We want them to be able to find the content that they're looking for, and we want people who're providing the amazing content out there to get found. They didn't even have a clear plan how they were going to make money until after they'd raised roughly $26 million in investment. They still hadn't got a clear monetization plan because it was at the end of the scale, right? It was the last question that they were asking. So for me, this is a very, very important thing. And people often say, yes, well, it's easy for you to say, it's easy when you've got money. Yeah, it's easier to be more disciplined about asking or it's easy to have that luxury, and you don't need to be as disciplined. But at the same time, I really, 100% truly believe that if you really want to be successful, you should be asking the questions in the right order, and you'll be far happier with your life when you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even for people who may not have the luxury of single-mindedly pursuing their pure purpose, even just asking the questions, like you said, in the right order, even if you can't always act on them perfectly in the beginning, if you're just getting started, I think having that mental framework of having the prioritization of purpose first, I think is really, really important.
Exactly. And you're right. You're not going to get it perfect. When you look at passion, for example, do I do things on a daily basis that I'm not super passionate about? Yeah, it happens, but I'm constantly working to refine that and focus more and more of my time on those things that I am immensely passionate about. And overall, my passion for the business and my purpose gives me the motivation, gives me the drive, gives me the energy and the focus to be able to work through the natural bouts of procrastination that are very normal for anybody building a business when they're faced with the challenges of doing something they're not super passionate about.
Mm-hmm. And so do you think maybe that people who, would you say as a general rule, people who they understand their passion, they know what their passion is, even if there's not a clear path to the money beyond that, do you think it's generally speaking a good idea to pursue that passion and then the money will follow? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if you go to the absolute business classic, Good to Great, and I'm sure many of you watching this have read that book, and if not, it's one of those that everybody will tell you should read. So, but to summarize one of the core concepts, he talks about the hedgehog concept, right? And this is where passion and skill overlap each other with another overlap of monetization, or a way to generate profit. Now, for most individuals, and this is why I say, for me, an entrepreneur is like an artist, right? An entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, isn't about trying to make money. They're about creating art, and business is their art form. And like normal artists, you get those that are broke and penniless. As we joke, people say, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur." Oh, you mean you're unemployed? It's like, why is that the case? Where others are super successful, you think about the top musicians, or the top artists, or the top of any art form, even sport. Are they individuals or are they teams? Right? It's a very, very important question to ask. What you realize, of course, is that even the top artists only become top in their game when they get a team behind them. And it's not a chicken and egg situation, right? It's a very, very clear thing. The team will help you lift you to the next level. And you will stay at that level until you increase the quality and the size of your team again to take you to the next level. So when somebody gets that #1 hit, they didn't get the quality of the team around them at the top after they reached the #1 hit, right? They were pushed to the #1 by the quality of the team that they'd built around them when they were at a slightly lower level than that, and so on. And it goes all the way down right to the point they were in school and had a high school music teacher, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we all have a team around us to different degrees. It's how much we focus on them and how much importance we place upon those. And so if you're really passionate about something and you don't have a clear purpose yet, find somebody who does and team up with them. We can't all necessarily have an amazing purpose or be the creator of an amazing purpose, but we can all align ourselves to a bigger vision, a bigger purpose in life, and follow our passion, and find somebody else who's lacking the skills and the passions that we think are so natural to us, and they are struggling with, and still be in alignment to a bigger purpose and become a part of a team.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a great point there, because it's really easy to think like, oh, I'm at a lower level, I want to have an amazing team, I'll have that later, but I'm not really there yet, and like there's these people I'd like to associate with, there's these mentors I'd like to have, but I'm not really there yet.
Yep.
And I think you just kind of had a great point, which is you should flip that on its head, right? Like you need that to get to that point, actually, to the next level.
Yeah, and for those of you who do have a purpose, and you think, you know what, I'm going to make some money first, I'm going to fulfill my income needs first, I can tell you it's a lot easier to get people on board with your purpose, and build that team that's going to help you create that profit once you have a really solid purpose.
Wow.
Little aerial traffic noise.
Those are inevitable, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're very clear, and if you're one of those people who are very passionate and have a very strong purpose, use that to leverage other people, to get other people on board with your vision, and then they become, the third P there, the people, and then you can define where you need to be to really work with those people, and then you'll find the money will just flow naturally, honestly. And it's only really fear that ever stops people from making those decisions. Fear that it won't happen, and fear that they're going to miss out. I mean, I often see this, people jumping from shiny object to shiny object, right? Because somebody comes in and they say, you know what, I'm absolutely killing it on Teespring. Oh, I'm absolutely killing it on drop shipping. And then they go, oh my God, I'm losing all this money because I'm not in the right niche, or I'm not in the right business model. I've got to drop everything, and I've got to run over and do some Teespring. I've got to run over here and do some drop shipping, instead of staying true to their original purpose and passion. And I just see that, again and again and again. So people's fear about missing out and losing out on other opportunities is actually whatever really stops them from fulfilling anything.
And of course that naturally follows as well. If you don't have that clear, if you're focusing on the profit, not the purpose, then you don't have that clear direction. And so it's literally just like, oh, what's making the most money? Oh wait, no, is it this? Is it this? I don't even know.
Yeah, you've got no clarity and no direction. So, money is the only thing. And it's like, you go to a new country and you say to somebody, can you tell me to the directions to a city? And you just say a city. It's like, well, I want money. It's like, but I want to go to a city, and then you start heading down the road, and then you ask the next person, can you give me directions to a city? And they point you in a different direction. They have no idea which city you wanted to go to. And so you just keep getting pointed in different directions the whole time. And really, that's all that happens the moment you jump on. You start saying, can you show me the way to make money?
Wizard of Oz Scarecrow.
Yeah, that way. It's all around you. Just look in every direction.
Yeah.
It's surrounding you.
It's true.
But you won't reach any of it until you follow one path consistently to actually get to reach it.
Absolutely. And so I'm also curious, so since you've run several and been involved with many different types of projects and businesses and business models, right? This is a brick and mortar establishment. You run a SaaS business. You've written books. So what are your experiences with different types of business models? Would you, do you have a preference? Do you like some, hate some, like lessons learned?
I'm not a big fan of, I'm not a big fan of fads or trends. This is something I steer well clear from, and it's something you see happen again and again. The moment that somebody comes in and finds some loophole, it's usually a short-term road, if you're at best, to any form of money. So I have a set of criteria. I have 6 criteria that, for me, I have to analyze and make sure that every business model that I enter is going to meet these 6 criteria. Is it proven? Is number 1, right? I want to know that it's actually been proven as a business model, or somebody else has been able to make it work. I don't have the luxury of multiple millions of dollars of angel investment money or VC capital to basically gamble with. I want to know that something's going to play out. Secondly, is it scalable? Right, that's an interesting question. Can I scale it to the level of my goals? And if I'm not clear about my goals, it's a difficult question to answer. If your goal is $500 a month, then most business models may work. If your goal is $50,000 a month, you may start needing to throw some away. If it's $5 million a month, you're going to have to throw a lot of those business models away. So being clear about your goal and understanding, is my business model scalable to reach my goal, is another important question. Is it profitable? Well, we talked about drop shipping earlier. To me, drop shipping isn't actually profitable. Why do I say that? Well, the margins are so low, it doesn't really give you much of a margin to go out and acquire leads or acquire customers with. It's very difficult for you to really go and invest into a lot of different lead gen strategies, which means you end up having to do something like SEO, which then doesn't meet my next criteria, which is it sustainable? Because Google is going to change its algorithm of the month, and everything's going to change. So I want to make sure that it's sustainable over the long term. I want to know, is it systematizable? And again, look at something like Teespring, for example. Teespring's not a systematizable model as far as I can see. I know some guys that are doing very, very good money in it, but they're doing the money, they're making this money, but they're having to work in their business. They're outsourcing some of the tasks, but they're not able to outsource all of them. They have to remain very, very much involved with their business. And then the final one, is it purposeful? Because I don't want to get to that point where I'm making a bunch of money, and at the end of it, realize that I've been doing this without any form of purpose, without feeling like I'd really achieved something that I was proud of. Because as I said, there's millions of ways to make money, so why not choose one that you're genuinely proud of, that you genuinely enjoy doing, and is genuinely going to give back and contribute towards society in some way.
Sorry guys, a little bit of technical issues there, got cut off, but so I just wanted to thank Leon for being here, and he has a lot of great information, and he's a very knowledgeable guy about everything from just the style of approaching business to also online marketing, and his company is really fantastic, and you should check out FusionHQ. But where can people go to learn more actual online education?
Sure. We mentioned Do Less Work, Make More Money. That book is actually online. The entire book is online, and you can also download it for free at fusiondojo.com, which is the website that we use as part of our training platform and educational platform. So essentially there's masses of information, not just that book, but a bunch of other programs and articles around business and basic personal development philosophy, and a few other things on there as well. That's sort of a requirement for becoming successful online and elsewhere. So
fantastic. And that's all free?
Yeah, all free.
Great.
So fusiondojo.com.
Awesome. thanks so much for joining me, and I'm sure everybody who's listening to this has just learned tons of interesting stuff, and their mind's been blown. And so go check out FusionDojo.com, and thanks for listening.
Great, thanks a lot. Good luck, guys.